Thank you for the nice introduction and welcome everybody. So this is usually how I return after vacation, right? There's always mail, usually from the Blue Friends, um, and and you always have to deal with it, right? And normally you would store it, and the physical mail goes somewhere, and then you have that challenge of, hey, where is that information I needed? Where do I find it? And hopefully I sorted it well. Usually not. And they are annoying, right? They come back to you 5 years later, like, hey, what did you do 5 years ago? And can you prove that it was actually good or not? And prove that the finances are in order. And then, hey, you're doing well in life, and you have to go through the financial system. And you have the stockbroker, and he's gonna say, well, yeah, sure, you wanna do some stocks. That's fine. Can you prove where the money came from? And can you show that? And perhaps you were gifted 10 years ago, and you need to prove, like, oh yeah, that was on my tax report, and I need to find that. And it's annoying, right? So how do we go about this? I'm Bart Dorlandt. Thank you for the introduction. Dream Network and Automation. I've been working my career in the networking space, computer networking, and since the last 10 years-ish, been working towards the automation part of it. Last year I was at Pygrunn. I loved it, so decided to come back. Got selected for a talk. Then 2 days ago, Berko reached out. He's like, we have an open slot. You had a second talk, right? Can you do it? I'm like, yes, sure. I have it in my mind, not on paper or electronically. So let me get to work. This is the bonus one that got created since 2 days ago while driving back from vacation. And as he pointed out, the thing that I like to be known about is there must be a better way. So this is going to be a pragmatic approach of how I did it to better mail handling. That's both physical, email, whatever comes in through the virtual mailbox, and dealing with that. Because when you have it in email, you can find it. When you have it physically, hopefully you can find it, and you stored it in all the boxes and all the way that you do it. But the challenge is you have to sort it potentially or not, and just do it by date. But finding things can be challenging, right? So the goal is there has to be a better way of handling it, sorting it, and especially finding it for whenever you need it, because you don't know when you're going to need it. So essentially is usually, or what used to be, was finding that specific information was more like it's somewhere in my documents. That means goodbye Saturday afternoon and hello frustration. Oh, that went too quick. So introducing paperless. I got introduced to paperless by a friend of mine, or a couple actually use it in a group that I'm in. They loved it, so I was like, okay, this is better than manually or hard copy sorting. So let's go with it. So what is it? It is a document system. You can read that, and it allows you to put every document, every physical, virtual, whatever document in there, and have that organized. So you can organize it by correspondent or by document type, and put it in a certain path. So your storage is also organized, even if you don't use the system as is. It will still organize the path and the storage behind it as well. You can put tags on it, eventually allowing you to find stuff that you need. Bonus to that is it's self-improving, right? The first time you throw in a document from the tax office or Fitens or whatever company, it doesn't know how to deal with it, but it will get smarter. And it's no AI. It's just, it sees it, oh, okay, this is V10, so that's the water company, and okay, and once you have one or two or three of those documents, and it says, okay, this is a correspondent, this V10, and then the document type is this and that, and it will self-improve it, so you have less and less work in processing your own inbox. Besides that, it has the ability for workflows, for trigger an action kind of thing to automate certain processes, or whenever you want custom fields or whatever you want to do within that system. So just giving a brief look, this is the dashboard. You have you can have your custom views in there. Usually the inbox is present. That's whatever comes in and that you still need to process and assign your names or document type tags whatsoever. Since I'm a freelancer, I get a lot of those blue envelopes, right? They're about everything. So I got a custom view for the tax office and my invoices, things like that. There's a bit of statistics on the side. And this is your place to be, right? Whenever you need that information, this is your document section. There you can filter and search just by typing the file name, but it also, since it processes all your documents, you can find actually the text within your document, right? So it allows you to actually find stuff where you need it. And it definitely helps if you get your, again, correspondent, your document type and things aligned like that, so you can filter based on that as well. So there are a huge amount of capabilities to actually find your stuff quickly. So here's a more detailed view. So you have the title, and it goes through that document, right? So it will figure out, hey, this is the date actually that belongs to the document. Sometimes when there are multiple dates, it can get confused. But overall, it usually picks the correct date, it puts it there, and everything therefore is also organized. Side benefit, whenever you download the file that is in here, it will format it in a nice way so you can actually have a meaningful name instead of the random set of characters that you usually get whenever a document is from somewhere. Custom fields are also possible, so if you do that, then you can have some additional information around it, again, which you can filter on and do things with. Just a bit of tech porn in here. So this is what you get, or what you could get if you go to the paperless and NGX website, which is the open variant of it. And you will select whatever flow or whatever version or flavor that you want. Right, in this one, there is also the Gutenberg Docker, which allows for email processing as well, which it can do. So you can connect actually a mailbox, and you can say, okay, I want to search on this and this filters or queries, and it will get those documents automatically from your mailbox. Not in my use case, but I've used it with a separate mailbox as well for trying. Works really nice. So now that we got that sorted, I'm thinking about my use case, right? So I got my documents. Okay, I can store them in paperless. Great. First checkbox done. Then I got my bookkeeping system, right? And it's reachable by email or app or via the web, right? The UI. And that's fine. But I also often need to send an email to my bookkeeper for whatever information or a thing that I got from my blue friends or whatever it might be. And people might be happy already with that, right? So I have my PDF, or I have a picture of my invoice, and I can put it in the different systems. So yes, I got my bookkeeping system, which might change next year. I don't know, haven't decided, right? So I also want it in paperless. So now I got to manually put it left and right in the different systems. And for some people, that's fine, right? It's already better than it was with the physical sorting of documents. But there must be a better way. So let's look at that. And let's dive into how we're going to make that better. So this is a question, and because I'm getting older, so are there people in the room that don't know what this is? Beautiful. I'm not that old yet. Good. But I don't want to use that, right? I don't want to use a scanner to take my paper and to put it in, and then it gets into a certain folder and gets processed. Again, I don't want that. What I quote unquote can't use is the camera app, right, on your phone, because it will have, depending on the phone, it will have a photo extension, right, a JPEG, PNG, or the whatever Apple does. And it doesn't necessarily generate a PDF, which is the more preferred format of having it, right? And on top of that, I just want it to be easy, right? If I go to a restaurant, I got my bill, I still want to click it. I still want a photo feature, but not necessarily on that app. It needs to be better. What I've done is the Dropbox. I'm using Dropbox, or I hadn't used it for a long time, and then I realized that camera feature of Dropbox, the scan files feature, is actually great. It takes the picture, it enhances the contrast, it finds the corners, so it automatically zooms in into whatever is useful, right? It removes all the stuff around it, then generates a PDF, and now, as part of that, since it's already in Dropbox, it puts it into a folder of choice. Side note, right? A few years the cloud was not necessarily a problem. Some people are conscious. Now we live in the Trump era, and the cloud is a problem. So you have to accept that this might be not something that you personally would want. I've did this pre-Trump, so that didn't change it. So work towards a solution. We need a synced folder, right? We got that with the app and Docker. Sorry, not Docker, Dropbox. We need some code to potentially glue this all together, and we're going to get there, right? We need to execute this code on a regular basis because we need to process that or continuously. And paperless, we already talked about it. That was a check in the box. So since this is the personal edition, right? This runs or will run on my Synology NAS. So that runs at home. So in this case, what I need is there's a application within Synology that's called Cloud Sync. So I can have that specific Dropbox folder, have that synced to my NAS. We need Docker and Docker Compose to at least have the paperless environment spun up. We're going to do the glueware we're going to do with Python, and then there's the built-in task scheduler of Synology that we can work with. Python on Synology, at least at the time where I wrote it, you got Python 2. These days, I just checked yesterday, so there's now Python 3.9, hooray, as an app. But what makes it all better is UV, right? Case had an opinion about UV just in his previous talk, but it really makes it easy. You can download that on your NAS via the shell, right? And you have any Python environment or Python version available to you without having to mess with the OS of Synology itself or installing things by hand on there. So requirements of this little glueware, right? We need the ability to send to multiple destinations, right? I got my booking system, I got my bookkeeper, I got my paperless endpoint. So those files are going to end up in the different folders, and depending on the folder, right, they're going to be a processor attached to it. And with I need to be able to move the files, so once they're processed, I want them gone, right? So you get two choices: move it out of the way or delete it. I chose the save version at that point, so I move it to a done, and the same structure of folders behind it automatically created. But also, I of course need to be notified if anything isn't working as expected. I'm glad to say that hasn't occurred in the last 2 years, so I'm quite happy with that. So everything works, and let's have a look at what it does. Since this is a little personal project, you get to experiment with anything that you would like, right? So at the time that I wrote this, I'm like, okay, data classes, those are fun, let me use those. And I came across this environs library, which is able to read your end file, but does additional validation on top of it instead of just treating everything as a string and doing the stuff manually. So that's what you see here. On the right side, you got the data classes defined. On the left side, you see a portion of the main function. where the values are assigned, right, that are received from the environment. There are some global variables that I need in multiple places, so I just left them global. This all is a single file, so there's no real huge magic around it. So let's look in further. So this is the second part of it, right? So we got the processors defined with their data class variables inside, and here you can see that I got multiple folders, and depending on the folder, it's gonna have a single or multi processors attached, right? A list of processors. We'll see those in the next slide. And this gives the ability to process all of those and being flexible about which processor it needs to do what, right? So one goes to the paperless, one goes to the bookkeeping system or to the person bookkeeper, right? Because if you read quick enough, they look alike, so you have to be careful which one to choose. It processes the folder, right? It reads the files, goes through it. I'm going to skip dot files, right? There's never going to be a situation that a PDF starts with a dot. So skipping that or photo or whatsoever, right? Goes through it, and essentially it does some logic of, hey, I at least need amount of good feedback from the action to mark it as done, right? Both of them need to be, or if there were two, both of them need to succeed. And then we can move it out of the way. Beautiful. At the time, I was like, hey, I've heard about abstract base classes, and there's something called protocols. Why not use it? This is a personal project. I can spend time as much as I wanted, so better learn from it, right? So, okay, beautiful. My file processor is going to be a protocol class, and I have the only function in there is process. A lot of code. Essentially, it does one thing. It talks to the API of paperless. It dumps the file in there, and if it's 200, it's good. If it's anything else, it's bad. Simply said, right? And there's some error conditions around that. Those that I encountered during development, haven't seen them, like I said, in 2 years or so. So beautiful. Alternative to the paperless is the email processor. Via email, I can reach the bookkeeping system and the bookkeeper, right? So I got one class for that, and it reads the file, puts it as a attachment to it, and sends up the message. I did warn my bookkeeper. She's lovely. I said, well, from now on, or soon-ish, you're going to get boring emails, right? You're going to have this text always, and you're going to have the attachment, and that's what you're going to have to live with. She knew me. She laughed and accepted. Because I didn't want, a file needs to go to her and she needs to store it and do something with it, with the file, but I didn't want to put a very nice and polite email around it. It's just, hey, here's a file for your bin. Good luck with it. So as an end result, the flow is pretty much drop a PDF in the desired folder of Dropbox. That can either be from the phone directly with the scan files function of Dropbox, or just from the laptop or your email and just download, put it in the receipts folder, or one of those that I had defined previously. That gets synced automatically. Don't need to do anything about it at one point to the NAS. The task scheduler, I have it set to hourly. It will parse that. It will start the UV and process that, start up the script, process the files in the folder, and depending on, again, on the folder, it would run multiple processors, either email, paperless things. And when successful, it's moved. It's moved out of the way. Still, I've moved it to a done folder, so I can always go back and see, okay, did it work? Do I need to go back? Even though the document is now in my paperless or at the bookkeeper, so it's already somewhere where it needs to be. Still, I didn't change it to actually delete those files. And once in a while, I check the paperless app and the inbox, and I go through the files and process those, right? Setting the correspondence, the document type, the text, etc. as I want it, and then it's done. Allowing me to find this stuff eventually where I need it, right? So it's either with the bookkeeper where it needs to be or the bookkeeping system, but I always can find my own stuff in there. So just in case, right, whenever you have the like, oh crap, my washing machine broke. Do I have the receipt? Well, yes, I got it because now it's part of my system, scanning just the receipt of things that have a guarantee and a warranty to be able to throw it in there. And if it's over time and past due, that's fine, right? I might delete it at one point. I might not. We'll see. So the takeaway out of this is you might have your personal project, play, learn while you create and automate your life. Having UV, especially in this case on a NAS where the capabilities are limited, is actually a breeze. And having that available because one command does it all, no additional challenges. And looking back, it's pretty awesome that something this relative simple, right? Having the paperless, having this little glueware code around it is saving me hours, right? Especially just snapping that picture. Again, especially being self-employed, you're snapping a lot of pictures of everything that you buy and go to a restaurant, drink a beer, whatever. So that makes it very easy. It's just dropped in the right folder. Things happen in the background now, right, on the NAS, and sorting and getting those things to the right endpoints. It works, but especially finding stuff is extremely useful for that specific case when you need it. So what can you automate in your life? I feel like a LinkedIn post now. So I've been Bart Dorlandt. You can find me on LinkedIn and dreamnetworking.com. You can find this specific code in detail on this in GitHub. This was the bonus talk, and I'll be in camera 5 at 2:15 with the talk Jason Freedom or Chaos: How to Trust Your Data.